In today's director sparkles of GUBERNA alumni, we welcome Biebuyck. She recently made the move from an executive manager to a director of a board. So we are very happy she shares today her journey and her experience in this route. We welcome also Konstantinos Sergakis, Knowledge and Research Director of GUBERNA, who will complete the view on this route from an academic point of view. So you will have a complete view of the route to go from an executive function to a board membership and a successful board membership. Welcome, Anne.
Thank you.
In this sparkle. So could you give you a short overview of your career path so we understand a bit the background in which you are sharing your experience?
Yes, thanks for having me. So my name is Biebuyck. I'm 45 years young and I live in Deense. I'm a psychologist and afterwards I did a year of general management at Biebuyck. And most of my career is to be situated within the food industry, so production sites like Comptoir Gourmand and McCain, and also B2C environments like Lunch Garden. During the 20 years, I also moved from a purchase management function towards a general management function. And it is in those latest 5 years that I really got in touch with the working of a board of directors. And since a few months now, I'm actually an independent director in a family business, as well as the chair of the board of directors in a corporation.
Great. So as a general manager, what was the trigger to become a board member?
Well, as a general manager in a company that was not in an easy situation because we were talking about COVID, I really got to know the importance of having the right people on board, having the right discussions, having as a CEO the right support, the right level of challenging and the right level of protection. So I really want to have that impact now on other teams and other companies because I experience the importance it has in reality.
Konstantinos, from your point of view, moving from an executive to a board membership, is that frequently a counter move? Or what are the main reasons and advices you can give in this situation?
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It happens often, either because an executive member wants to now change a role, maybe Anne's case as well, and start supporting others actively. I will pick up on something really, really interesting that Anne said about, as a CEO, you need support from the board. And we have to also be made aware of the fact that the relationship between board and management is a critical part in the governance matrix. So some people move to the board because they want to support actively others, and maybe they want to support, maybe it's your case as well, executives having served on an executive role. Other people are moving towards a board function because they want to diversify their experiences while remaining executive members of another company. And other people just see it as a further career path for other reasons, maybe also personal reasons attached to it. We've seen, for example, lots of brilliant female executives. At some point, they move to non-executive roles because they keep on citing personal reasons. So different people have different, of course, motivations in order to move to a non-executive role. The important thing, as I said, is to stick to a organic symbiosis between board and management. They need to go hand in hand. They need to support each other for a successful governance model.
And I can imagine that such transition requests an appropriate approach. How did you handle that?
Well, I can say it has been a journey at the least, because I actually entered as an executive director and I got to realize that it has such a broad responsibility. You need to be aware of strategic items, financial items, legal items, HR, IT, ESG. It's so broad, so I was seeking ways to really get that expertise on a better level. And that's when I got in contact with GUBERNA. So I checked when I could join one of the classes. And what is logical is that GUBERNA really wants to have complementary profiles in the classroom, but that actually meant that it took me several years before I could really have those 3 different modules. So the director effectiveness, the board effectiveness, and the board simulation. So you can say a journey, but all good things take time. So certainly if you're talking about board roles, whether it is an executive directorship or a non-executive directorship, it's very important that you make the right choices and that you take the time to make sure that it is a fit and that you're really doing that supporting, protecting, and also challenging.
What do you use most in practice from these trainings?
Well, if I have a look at the director effectiveness course, where you get the basic actually around strategy, finance, and the legal items, one thing that I do apply now at Van der Zijpen is really the basic positioning of the company, where you question the management team each month on saying, okay, we think that we are on that axe of strategic positioning, but can we all search for examples that might not be in line or might reconfirm that strategic axe that we have defined? So it's really putting into practice framework by using it. And each time we get to examples that show that either indeed we do what we say we should do, and some other times we say, okay, but that isn't in line with our strategy. Let's keep that an exception. So that's one of the practical items. And then for sure, what has given me a lot of insight is with the board effectiveness. I actually did that scription on the board I was part of. And it really helped in gaining insights on what the constellation should be like. So it gave me some theoretical arguments to really make sure that something was moving. And then the last course, that is certainly the cherry on the cake, the board simulation course, where you were actually in a role, in a very safe space, which is very important, and being coached by experts of all ages and environments. And the tips and tricks that we got there, that is really a lifelong learning. So that I will certainly put into practice across the years to come.
And Konstantinos, I can imagine that in research you look also what the key capabilities you need as a board member. So could you give some insights in that, please?
Sure, yeah. And it's something that we also exercise in the board simulation, which I have to say is my preferred training at GUBERNA as well. What we have been advocating for all these years with our members is make sure that you have a real presence while serving on a board. So keep on asking difficult questions, keep on challenging the status quo, keep on challenging constructively the management and your colleagues in a board. We keep on seeing it across various activities. People tend to have, especially the first time when they join a board, tend to have a more passive, I would call it also introvert, nothing wrong with introverts, a more introvert stance when they sit on the board, but you need to bring to the table your added value as a person. You need to make sure that your voice is heard and that you keep on constructively interacting with other members of the board. And of course, it goes without saying, well, trying to become an active listener and an active participant in a board, make sure that you keep on ruthlessly updating your skills. Because of course, yes, you've done the 3 parts of what we offer, director effectiveness, board simulation, but there are geopolitics, there is innovative governance, there is cybersecurity, there is artificial intelligence. I could go on, the list is huge. So keep on ruthlessly updating your skills. There are so many options out there. ESG, it's another one, it's another area, because you need to keep on offering to your board as a member the best that you can on an everyday basis. And what you used to know last year may be less relevant in 2 or 3 or 5 years down the line.
Yes, a lot of capabilities to have, and in your concrete situation, what are the competence and skills you consider crucial to be a good director, making impact, like you said you want to have?
Well, I think my colleague has said quite some very important items already. So you need to be up to date. And indeed, it's the more that you know, the more that you realize that you don't know everything. So what is for me very important is that you are very much aware of the scope of your responsibility. And if you're aware of the broadness of that scope, you can also easily say, okay, we need to have an expert explaining us something more on that. So you really need to have the right scope in mind, and then you realize where the white spots still are. Next to, of course, the expertise, I think it's crucial to be able to have the right discussions being facilitated. So in order to have a good discussion, you need to have the good listening skills and also the good communication skills. So I think whether it is as a chair, but also as an independent or an executive, it's very important that you think well on forehand, what is the message that I want to share? So that the others, if they have additional questions or if they are really not in favor of your opinion, they can challenge it. So expressing well the things that you think that have an important impact for the company and for the functioning, that is a great characteristic that I think a good board member should have.
Yes. Your board mandates of Van der Zijpen and Copagro, did the training support you in building these competences?
For sure. I already highlighted the example of Van der Zijpen and the strategic positioning. Certainly also just having a network, and I'm the alumni coordinator, let's say, and the director effectiveness group and the board effectiveness group, it keeps you up to date. So a network and daring to share with other members and other learners along the road what you're experiencing, and maybe indeed advising a good book is so important. So yes, the theory is there. The theory needs constant updating, so that takes a lot of time and energy. And next to that, using the network, because it's a fantastic network, GUBERNA.
Was that important to become the independent director of Van der Zijpen? Van der Zijpen was a company trading and processing fruits and vegetables. And we know also that times changes. Yes, we live in VUCA times. Mm-hmm. You explained me before the meeting, vulnerable, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous times. So I'm interested in what current topics are on the board table you want to have, and how do you address them also? Because the second point is also important.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's of course as well a journey. I think it started by knowing the business quite well, knowing the people quite well, who are the owners of the company. And indeed, it's a very important thing to make clear to them that you are like an external mirror. They already go fast by taking several decisions, some quite fast. And I think as an independent director, you can really make sure that the right questions are being addressed at the right timing. Do we need to do that project? Will it have a sustainable impact? Is it wise to do it now? And then, of course, having a family-owned company, you certainly also need to address the succession planning. And now it is the father who is the owner and the CEO. The son is active in the company. So also those things, you need to address them in time, but not too fast. But it will be key to know and to have a common consensus around where is the company heading to. Is there the need of external capital, an external CEO? So you need to know what you have in-house, and you need to know what is expected to make the company flourish even more.
Yes, it's a specific situation, a family-owned company, family-managed company. You're an independent director. So in that respect, what do you need to be able to function in the role in an effective way?
Well, it's like in every relationship, you need to have a good framework up front and well communicating around it. So what was for them a big step, and which is normal, is that as an independent director, you don't have an operational role. Mm. And in most family-owned companies, people are very much operationally involved. So we made that very clear from the beginning, and that if that's clear, sometimes indeed you need to make sure that you reframe it, but having the right communication around it and showing that that is the aspect that is really adding value, that's why it works.
Yes, and I think trust is important in that. So how do you build trust
Well, trust is indeed something that needs to be built. I know the people already for quite some years, but trust is something that you need to nurture as well, by good communication, by having the right transparency. So trust is indeed a prerequisite, and you just need to make sure that it keeps on evolving and that, it needs to be used.
I couldn't agree more. I think, I would just echo what Anne said. It's about trust. It's about building ruthlessly trust. So active listening skills, always trying to find common ground when it's not inevitable that, it is common ground. So being the person in the room who actually can make it happen. So try and align everyone, although in the beginning might seem as mission impossible. You having that kind of vision that, at the end of this meeting, we need to be aligned no matter what. Also recognizing the fact that some of us will exit that room and will keep on having completely different views on what should have been agreed upon. But the important thing is that exactly because we are on the board of directors, members of a wider team, working for the best interests of the company that we serve, it means that we have to align whether we like it or not, because it's not about us, it's about the mission we serve.
Correct.
And it's about supporting each other. So differences are bound to exist. Conflicts are also a healthy sign of a healthy group of people, active people with different ideas, but also recognizing the importance of of finding common ground. I think it's crucial for a board to function well. And it also goes without saying, this also refers to the situation between board and management. You are not supposed to have alignment since day one, but it's about continuously updating each other and making sure that again, common ground can be found.
And certainly in the constellation of Van der Zeepen, what is also something that we can say is that they requested an independent director, which already shows the mindset is mature enough.
Yes. Which opens their minds for critical views of an independent director, which is also important.
Correct. They didn't ask me just to say yes to the things they are already doing.
Yes.
They requested me to become an independent board member because of indeed the trust, and certainly because of the fact that they want to be challenged.
Yes.
They want to be supported. They want to know what's really the bigger picture.
Yes.
You have also another board mandate recently, even as a chair of a cooperative company, Copagro. Copagro, which is a company distributing paints and decoration. So in this respect, how did you prepare for this chair? Because that requests some preparation, I guess. And the second question is, because it's a cooperative company, which differs it from a public limited company, and what are the similarities and the differences in the challenges, I would say?
Okay, two big questions indeed.
Two big questions.
It all started with a vacancy that was being published in November of last year. So indeed, I handed in my candidacy, and then it was only in May, when you have the General Assembly, that the different members of the cooperative got to see my candidature, and I could really highlight it to them. So in the bylaws, it was described that you need 2/3 in order to be elected. So happily enough, I got the 100% votes. And I have to say, I think that's a really democratic way of doing business. So that's what I also think is very enriching in a cooperative. It was only then in the first board of directors in June that I got promoted from independent director towards chair of the board. If I have a look at the differences between an NV and a cooperative organization, well, it's certainly the dispersion of the authority and the decision power. Because in a NV, it's more centralized, whereas also the election process. In a cooperative, you need to take into account really the opinion and the decision power of each member. So, for example, in Copagro, you have different sizes of members. You have different geographical activity regions. So they're they're not the same, but you need to take all of them into account in making good decisions.
Yes, that's quite the difference between a cooperative and a public limited company, Konstantinos. So different governance and stakeholders
Yes.
environment there. So could you give, from a research point of view, some advices on that?
Yes. So in a cooperative, you would have what, of course, Anne very eloquently just described. In a public limited company, you would have a different ownership structure, and then you have to distinguish between concentrated ownership with a major shareholder or dispersed ownership, mostly seen in the US and in the UK, which means that your shareholder base is much, much more diverse. Agendas tend to be much, much more diverse. Different requirements, different people with different needs, different funds potentially chipping into your shareholder base. But if I may go back again to what Anne said, I think that the governance dynamics, the dynamics of governance, not governance itself, so I'm not referring to structure, I'm not referring to relationships, remain exactly the same. Because it's all about, again, finding common ground. Of course, the scale of challenges is different. Because, for example, you discuss your relationship with your stakeholders. Your stakeholders are potentially able to be put on one list on 1 or 2 pages if you're a cooperative. If you're a publicly limited company, it goes without saying that the list is endless. But again, if you're a board of a cooperative or of a publicly limited company, when you discuss stakeholder management, is always about the same challenges. So how effective your communication is going to be. Who comes first, who comes second? How do you deal with your workers? And of course, yes, if you're a publicly limited company with operations internationally, et cetera, you have supply chain issues, you have other things that you have to discuss, but the governance dynamics are always the same. You always need people on the board who are willing to compromise, who are willing to challenge each other and find common ground. It always goes back to the dynamics for me. And of course, yes, you can also have people who have served on public limited companies and going to the cooperatives afterwards in order to bring into that kind of more challenging experience, either from a management or from a board experience, into a smaller scale, let's say, enterprise. But you also have the ones who start from the cooperatives and they go to the public limited companies exactly because they want to upscale themselves professionally, but also be faced with challenges at the higher, more complex, more nuanced level. So it goes both ways, I think.
We are coming to an end at these sparkles, and my question is, by entering a board, what do you think are the best to-dos and not to-dos?
I'll limit myself to one of each. I think the best thing to do is really having the mentality like your first 100 days. Be very much interested, ask the right questions, because even if you know the market, for example, at Van der Zeepen, you nevertheless need to ask the right questions, because that way you learn the playing field that the organization is in. So that's for me the do, and then I'll hand over with pleasure the word to you. The don't is, don't make the board just a formality. You have some boards that are really, everything has already been decided upon, and then it's only a formality. And if you do that, you really don't have the good discussions that go around it. And it's because of having the right discussions, knowing what the opinion of each of the board members is, that you get to that common ground that you're referring to. So the don't for me certainly is, don't put it as a formality, make it as a very useful tool.
Konstantinos, you.
Okay, my do's. Be present, be prepared, be willing to listen and to challenge others. The don'ts, don't see it as a formality indeed. It's not just a line on your CV. It can become a long life experience, a beautiful journey in order for you to discover things about yourself, about how you interact with others, about what can you contribute to a board of directors, and most importantly, going back to Anne's initial point, impact people around you, be it board members, be it management, be it stakeholders, being shareholders. I mean, it depends on, what kind of interactions you will have, but you can literally change the world around you if you have the right mindset. So it's a life journey. It's not just a line on the CV. It's not just a professional accomplishment, which is, of course, laudable, logical, to take pleasure from it, but it's way, way more than that.
So do you have still a reading which could be interesting for current and future board members entering the board?
Well, at Copagro, we're looking with the strategic committee on ESG, because it's less stringent now that we don't need to put it into practice. And one of the reads that I'm currently having at hand is of Karin van den Bergen, ESG Guide. It's in Dutch, but it really gives you the right frameworks. So first, making sure that you have a good picture upon the as-is situation of where you want to be, on the different impacts and the different scopes of ESG, and then certainly that you can really make it profitable at the end in a sustainable way. So to be honest, I will use that book, and I think those are the best books, that it doesn't stick into just theory, but that you get some frameworks that you can apply. So that would be my suggestion.
We're coming to an end. I want to thank you, Anne and Konstantinos, very much for your valuable insights on the route, how to come from an executive to a successful board member, which was very interesting. And I retain the better the question, the better the governance,
Absolutely.
the better the world,
Yep.
from one side. But on the other side, also a board member, it's interesting that they look at the lifelong learning you explained to us, to be able to have the right topics on the table of the board, and also how to handle them. Like you had a lot of examples explained by Anne and by Konstantinos. Thank you very much for looking at these sparkles. You will have the article at the GUBERNA in the next newsletter, and you will be able also to listen to the podcasts. And I welcome you in September for the next Director Sparkles with Max Jadot. Max Jadot is the chair of BNP Paribas Fortis, and he changed from a CEO in the same company to a chair of a board. And I think he will give us also valuable insights in that. Thank you very much and have a nice day.